Hi guys, good evening all of you. In today's session, can you hear me guys? Please respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So in today's session, we are going to deal with group 18 elements, 18th group elements. So they are also called as noble gases. They are also called as noble gases. So here, so what are the group elements we have? So what are the noble gas elements? I'll write one by one of them. Helium first, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon. These are the group elements. Now let's write its atomic numbers 2, 10, 18, 36, 54, 86. They're group numbers, atomic numbers. So here, if you write their electronic configuration, helium is alone 1s2. Remaining helium, next one is neon, argon, krypton, and xenon. So in helium, you have 2 electrons are already there. So remaining 8 electrons we have to show here. So after 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. This one 3s2, 3p6. Isn't it? 3s2, 3p6. Then d orbitals will start 3d10, 4s2, 4p6. 4d10, 5s2, 5p6. Here F block elements will start from this xenon after xenon atom. So here 4f14, 5d10, 6s2, 6s2, and 6p6. So except helium, remaining all have 8 valency electron in their configurations, isn't it? So except helium, helium is only having 1s2. Remaining all have octet configuration, 8 electrons in the valency shell, isn't it? So here I'll mention that point. Except helium in this group, okay, all elements having octet configuration. They have octet configuration. Is it clear? Next, their occurrence. Their occurrence we'll discuss about. How they are available in the nature. So all are available in the atmospheric air. So mainly available in atmospheric air. Atmospheric air, they are all available. Okay, and in that availability also, argon is the major gas which available, major element in the air. So sometimes helium and neon are found in minerals of, okay, minerals of radioactive origin elements. So what are the examples of these radioactive origin elements is pitchblende, monazite sand, and other one is cleveite. Okay, so these are the elements which are, these are the ores, mineral ores, radioactive, and in that some amount of helium and neon is also found. So here the commercial source of helium is commercial source of helium is simply the natural gas. Natural gas. So here xenon and radon are very rare elements. Xenon and radon are rare elements. So here this radon, okay, is obtained as radon is, they are actually rare, but radon is obtained as a decay product of radium element, radium 226. Okay, so that equation you can take down. So radium gives out radon, along with that some helium. That means on alpha ray emission of radium 226, that will give you radon 86, and if 4 is got minus, so it will have triple 2 mass number. Triple 2 plus 4, double 2 6. Yeah, 86 plus 2, 88. So on alpha disintegration of radium, you will get a radon. Okay, so this is about their basic introduction of 18 group elements, their general electronic configuration. Okay, and except helium, all of them are having octet configuration. Their occurrence in the atmospheric air, they are available, and even in the atmospheric air, argon is most abundant. Then helium and neon are found in radioactive elements, minerals. These are that examples. And commercially, helium is available as a natural gas. Next, helium and radon are rare elements, but radon is obtained from radium alpha emission. You will get radon. Okay, so this is your basic introduction about noble gases. So here another point. Next, their properties will discuss. Okay, their electronic configuration. I'm talking about electronic configuration. So guys, tell me, what is their electronic configuration? What is a valency electronic configuration? Their configuration is NS2 NP6. And here what is the exception? Except helium. Helium is having 1s2 configuration. Okay, remaining all of them are having 2 plus 6, 8 valency electrons. Next, ionization enthalpy. Ionization enthalpy or ionization energy, both are stable. So due to this valence electron is very stable, right? So stable electronic configuration due to stable electronic configuration, due to stable electronic configuration, they have high ionization energies. They have high ionization energies. Okay, is it clear? So from generally from top to bottom, what happens? Helium to take helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon. From left to right, as you are going, what happens? As a valency shell number of shells increases, so ionization energy decreases. So from left to right, if you are moving, size increases, ionization energy decreases. So they have high ionization energies, but that too, the top elements like helium, neon have lower ionization when compared to krypton and xenon. So ionization energies decreases down the group. So this is a common trend in all groups. Okay. Next one is atomic radii. What happens to the atomic radii? Atomic radii from top to bottom normally increases, isn't it? It's very simple. Next, electron gain enthalpy. Electron affinity, it is also called as electron affinity or electron gain enthalpy. So since they have a stable electronic configuration, so these elements stable, they have stable electronic configuration. Okay, so tendency to attract electron is normally less. So they didn't try to attract electrons because they have stable configuration already. So the tendency to attract electrons is less, or no tendency to attract electrons. So if they accept the electron, they will have highest electron affinity values. So that's what they have high, okay, or high or large positive values of electron gain enthalpies. So the values are very high positive. Electron affinity values are high positive. Next, we'll discuss their physical properties. So physical properties, let's discuss them. First thing, they are all monoatomic gases. All are monoatomic gases. All are monoatomic gases. And they are colorless. They are colorless, odorless, and tasteless. They are colorless, odorless, and tasteless. And they are sparingly soluble in water. They are sparingly soluble in water. That means slightly soluble in water. Okay. They have, okay, they have low melting and boiling points. So what is the reason for this? They have low melting and boiling points because they have only one type of interaction between the atoms. The reason is due to weak dispersion forces. So they have very weak interaction. So what type of, like van der Waals hydrogen bond, okay, dispersion forces is one type of interaction between the atoms. So it is very weak due to weak dispersion forces between the noble gas elements. They have low melting and boiling points. That is the reason. Okay. Next one, helium is having helium. Helium is have the lowest boiling point that ever known compound, ever known molecule, atoms. Okay, the boiling point is just 4.2 kelvins. That means minus 273. If you do nearly 269, minus 269 kelvins, its boiling point is minus 269, minus 270 nearly. So very lowest boiling point of a known element so far. Okay. And due to this, okay, it is having some, helium is having some unusual property. So helium is having some unusual property, that is nothing but it is diffused through helium. It will diffuse as through, that means it's a travel through, nothing but it will travel through rubber, glass, or plastics. So with this plastic, if you take a plastic bucket and put helium in it and close that bucket also, through that plastic also some amount of helium will escape. So that's the unusual property of helium gas. Okay, guys. We'll move to next concept. That is its chemical properties. Okay, chemical properties of 8th group elements. So I'm writing here, listen, chemical properties. So in the chemical properties, first of all, okay, they have, okay, noble gases, or this 18th group elements have, I'll write like this, least, they are least reactive. What is the first thing? They are least reactive because, what is the reason? The first reason is they have completely filled, they have completely filled NS to NP6 electronic configuration in the valency shell. First thing. So they don't need to react. They already having more stable configuration, more stable configuration they have. Second thing, they have high ionization energy. Suppose if it wants to undergo a chemical reaction, first an electron exchange should take place, right? So ionization energy is very, very high. So it is very tough to remove an electron. They are having high ionization energy and high positive values of electron affinity. High positive values of electron affinity. That's what their chemical reactivity is least due to these two reasons. Okay. But for the first time, okay, but a scientist called Neil Bartlett, Bartlett, his name. Neil Bartlett in 1962. That means, till this year, no scientist have proved that these noble gases will have some reactivity. But for the first time in history, this guy, Niels Bartlett, started working on noble gases, and he successfully prepared the first this compound. First of all, O2 plus platinum in combination with F6. So this compound he has prepared in the 1962. It is a red color complex he has prepared. Then he got one idea. Okay, the idea is, from this complex he got the idea that, okay, this oxygen and xenon, element xenon, okay, or almost have same first ionization energy. That means the value of ionization energy, here I am talking about high ionization energy, the value of ionization of oxygen and helium, they almost have same values. So if oxygen is reacted with the platinum hexafluoride, your xenon will also react. There is a possibility is there now. So that is the idea he got. So he prepared another complex in combination with xenon by combining platinum hexafluoride on reaction with xenon. He created a complex xenon plus platinum F6 minus. So this is also having a red color. This is also a red color complex he has prepared. That means for the first time, xenon with some other elements combination he has created. So this discovery has changed the perception of noble gases. They also have some reactivity. So that's why these zero group elements or 18th group elements are also called as noble gases. Why we call them as noble gases means, generally they have very less reactivity, but xenon atom forms compounds with other elements. That's what 18th group elements are also called as noble gases. Hope you understood. Okay. So here, after this discovery, number of xenon compounds are formed. So here, what is there along with the xenon? Fluorine. So here, xenon compounds with a number of compounds are prepared. Xenon compounds with more electronegative atoms, like more electronegative atoms, like fluorine and oxygen combination came into the picture. So like examples, what examples of XeF2, XeF4, XeF6, this kind of examples, and XeO3F2, XeO3. So there are many of these combinations. Look at this, only fluorine combination, fluorine and xenon, xenon and oxygen combination, both oxygen, fluorine and xenon combination. This type of complexes they have created on later days. So this is, so why we call them as noble gases? What is the reason? Due to the slight chemical activity of xenon, we call them as noble gases. Don't forget that. And very few compounds of xenon are known even till today. Very few compounds of xenon. This only very few things. Then krypton, there is only one compound known so far, krypton difluoride. And xenon, you have this. And the radon also having only one type of complex so far, radon difluoride. And there are no compounds, no true compounds actually. There are no true compounds. There are no true compounds of argon, neon, helium, or yet to known. So there is no synthesis of these related complexes so far. So you have more chemistry of xenon and its oxides and fluorides you have. So we will going to discuss about xenon fluoride compounds now. Okay, xenon and fluorine combination compounds we'll discuss now. Okay, listen carefully. So here, xenon and fluorine combination. Xenon and fluorine compounds. So normally, if you talk about this combination, this xenon forms three types of binary fluorides. So examples I said already, XeF2, XeF4 and XeF6. These three, it will form xenon on reaction with fluorine. So their preparation methods we'll see now. These preparation methods are very, very, very important. Many times appeared in the exam. Xenon on reaction with fluorine. You will get XeF2. Normally, this xenon is a gas which is taken in excess amounts, and this fluorine is also gas, but the product is a solid. And this reaction happens at 673 Kelvin and 1 bar pressure. So what you have created? XeF2 xenon difluoride is created. Next, xenon on reaction with the fluorine again, you will get XeF4, right? So 2 fluorines you will take. But the ratio must be in 1:5 ratio. The mass ratio. Xenon is taken 1 and fluorine is in 1 part, 5 parts. So this ratio is also important, guys. So if you just change the ratio, you will get different compound. That's what it is important. So it is also solid compound at 873 Kelvin and 7 bar pressure, it is formed. Next, this is the first one. second compound, and third compound I am writing. Xenon on reaction with fluorine. What you are getting here? XeF2, F4, F6, 6 fluorine. So 3. Here the ratio is taken very high ratio, 1:20 ratio. Xenon is 1 part, fluorine is 20 parts. And here the temperature is 573 Kelvin and say 60 to 70 bar of pressure, very high pressures. So this xenon hexafluoride can be also prepared by XeF4, this XeF4 on reaction with O2F2, you will get XeF6 and oxygen. In this way also you can prepare. This is the solid you are looking for, right? So from XeF4, xenon tetrafluoride, you can create XeF6 on oxidation with O2F2 compound. This is a known compound for us, right? So its properties, if you see the properties of xenon fluorides. So all the three, what are these XeF2, XeF4, XeF6? So all the three are colorless crystalline solids. All are colorless crystalline solids. All of them are colorless crystalline solids, and they sublime set 298 kelvins, and they are powerful because fluorine is having with them, so they are powerful fluorinating agent. That means they donate fluorine. They are powerful fluorinating agent, and they readily reacts with water. They readily hydrolyze even by traces of water. Traces, even small amount of water. Only one droplet of water, if it is there, it will readily hydrolyze. Okay. So look at this. What happens when xenon fluoride reacts? These fluorides are highly hydrophilic. They are attracted with water and they easily reacts with water, even with small amounts. Traces of water is enough for them. They form xenon and HF, and oxygen gas is released. So 2 moles, this is a solid and water is a liquid. So xenon gas is released. Then hydrogen fluoride, it is an aqueous solution, hydrofluoric acid. Oxygen is a gas. So these are the properties of xenon fluorine compounds. Okay. So their preparation methods are important, guys. Here star marks I am giving. All the three of them are important, and their ratio is very important. 1:5, 1:2, 1:20, 1:5 XeF4, 1:20. So more number of fluorines are adding, so XeF6. If xenon is taken in excess, XeF2 you are going to get. So this is their fluorine and xenon combination product. So you may ask me, why only fluorine reacts with xenon? I said, due to the high electronegativity, due to the high ionization energy, no other element can disturb the octet configuration, the stable configuration of noble gases, except high electronegative atoms like fluorine and oxygen. So what are the top electronegative atoms in the periodic table? First fluorine, then oxygen, nitrogen. These first two are able to disturb the valency shell electronic cloud. This electronic configuration can be disturbed by only fluorine and oxygen. You know that nitrogen is also highly electronegative, but this strength is also not enough to disturb noble gas configuration. Have you understood? So you need to use a powerful, okay, electronegative elements. What are they? Fluorine and oxygen only. So nitrogen is also more electronegative, but its electronegativity is not sufficient to disturb the valency electronic stable electronic configuration. What is that? Ns2 np6, because it is an octet configuration, cannot get disturbed by nitrogen, but it can be disturbed by using fluorine and oxygen. That's what you have compounds in combination with xenon fluorine, and xenon oxygen only. So after having done with this, we'll move to next step. It's structural studies we'll do now. Okay, xenon fluoride structures. Xenon fluoride structures. So what are the structures we have? First thing is XeF2. This molecule we have created now by using this method. So it's a structural studies we'll do. Now first we have to find its hybridization. So xenon, which group element it is? 8th group element. So 8 valency electrons are there, 3 plus 3, 6 plus 2, 8. How many fluorines are there? There are only 2 fluorines. So remaining all are lone pairs. So here in this structural study, hybridization. What is the formula of hybridization? I said yesterday also. Hybridization is equal number of sigma bonds plus lone pairs. How many sigma bonds are created here? With xenon and fluorine, 1, 2. So there is 2 sigma bonds. And how many lone pairs? 1, 2, 3. Total 5. 5 means what is a hybridization? sp3d, trigonal bipyramidal. Trigonal bipyramidal. So trigonal bipyramidal will first I will write trigonal bipyramidal structure. Xenon at the center, trigonal bipyramidal middle. It looks like this, isn't it? How many fluorines are there? 2 fluorines attached to the xenon. Remaining 3 are lone pairs only, right? Say this is a lone pair, this is a lone pair, this is a lone pair. Now if you see this, fluorine, xenon, fluorine, they are all in the same line. So the geometry of this is linear. It is having a linear shape. Okay guys, so it is having sp3d2 hybridization with a linear shape. How many bond pairs totally? 2 plus 3. So total 5 bond pairs. 5 bond pairs. Out of them, 2 are total 5 pair of electrons. 5 pairs, not bond pairs. 5 pairs of electron. 2 are bond pairs and 3 are lone pairs. This is clear to you now? So what is the geometry? Linear sp3d2 hybridization with 5 pairs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 bond pairs, 3 lone pairs. This is about XeF2. Next one, XeF4. In the same way, you try to give its hybridization. Okay, xenon is a 8th group element, isn't it? So I'll write 8 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How many fluorines are there? 4 fluorines. Each fluorine to get octet, it needs only 1 electron. So it take electron from central xenon atom. There are 4 fluorines. So this 4 fluorine means how many sigma bonds formed? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 sigma bonds are formed. And remaining 4 lone electrons, I'll make them into 2 lone pairs. So now what is hybridization formula? Sigma bonds plus lone pairs. There are 4 sigma bonds, 2 lone pairs, total 6. 6 hybrid orbitals containing hybridization is sp3d2, isn't it? 1 plus 3 plus 2, total 6 hybrid orbitals are present in this. So xenon at the center. So it is, you have to write octahedral geometry and 4 fluorines, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the remaining 2 are lone pairs, right? So lone pairs you can show like this. And the other four fluorines are in a square planar manner. So the geometry of this complex is, okay, what is the geometry of this? Square planar. One lone pair is above the plane and one lone pair is below the plane. So total how many pairs of electrons are there? 6. In that 6 pairs of electrons, there are 4 bond pairs, 2 lone pairs. Okay, what is the geometry? Square planar geometry. Is that clear to you? Okay, next. Are you listening, girls? Girls
Yes,
and
sir.
boys, are you
Yes,
listening?
sir.
Respond. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
sir. Yes,
You're
sir.
able to understand this hybridization method?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, after Fe, Xe, F4, we'll move to Xe, F6. The third one, Xe, F6. Hexafluoro, xenon. Okay. So here, follow the same principle. Xenon belongs to 8th group. So it will have 8 electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now, how many fluorines are there? 6 fluorines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it is forming how many sigma bonds? 6 sigma bonds, and remaining is 1 lone pair. So here, what is hybridization formula we have? Number of sigma bonds plus lone pair. There are 6 sigma bonds, 1 lone pair, total 7. 7 means first you have, what is the hybridization of this? sp3d3 trigonal, sorry, pentagonal bipyramidal. So first write it's a pentagonal bipyramidal geometry. So it is having 2 possibilities. Okay, geometry will have 2 possibilities. Pentagonal bipyramidal. Okay, but due to the lone pair, it will get distorted octahedral geometry. Octahedral geometry. So what is its final geometry now? Distorted octahedral is correct. Are you following? Distorted octahedral geometry only you have to write for this XeF6 structure. So first keep xenon in the middle. Octahedral structure you write first of all. How many fluorines? 6 fluorines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where we have to show this 1 lone pair now? Anywhere. So due to that distortion, here this is a lone pair on the central atom. So due to this lone pair and fluorine, this fluorine bond slightly get deviated from this original line. So it will come like this. This dashed line is the new position of your fluorine atom. You don't need to bother about this much. So what is the geometry it is having? Distorted octahedral geometry. So slightly this fluorine will bend on the right side. Okay. Reason due to the lone pair repulsion. So you have, this is a bond pair, this is a lone pair. Lone pair bond pair repulsions arises. So that is explained based on VSEPR theory, valence shell electron pair repulsions theory. So this is about XeF6 xenon fluoride structures. Okay, so all the 3 structures we have done. Next step, it's a chemical properties. We'll see simple property. There are only 2-3 properties are there here. As a note, I am giving this. So here these xenon fluorides reacts with fluoride. We have two cases, fluoride ion acceptors and fluoride ion acceptors. They form cations or cationic species. So when these xenon fluorides reacts with the fluoride ion acceptors, what they will form? Cations. You have other case. If they react with fluoride ion donors, they form anions. Okay, with acceptors they form cations, with donors they form anions. So what is this? Let's see. So take xenon difluoride on reaction with PF5, phosphorus pentafluoride. This will convert to XCF plus PF6 minus. Look at this. Xenon is present in cationic position or anionic position? Xenon is present at cationic position. So what it is formed? Cation. That means this is a fluoride ion acceptor. So I'll mention here, this is an acceptor. That means when xenon fluoride reacts with the fluoride ion acceptors, acceptor of what? Acceptor of F minus ion, fluoride ion acceptor. When this xenon fluorides on reacts with the acceptor of fluoride ions like PF5, they form cation species, isn't it? Anion is also there, but your xenon is present in cationic position. That is called cation formation. Next, another example we'll see. This xenon tetrafluoride on reaction with SBF5. It will give XCF3 minus. Already one proton is lost, one fluorine is lost. So it becomes SBF6 minus. Okay. In that case, look at this again, your xenon at cationic position. That means it is again acting as fluoride ion acceptor. So again, it is formed a cation. Okay. Next, anionic position, one example we'll see. Xenon hexafluoride. Both of them are forming cations, but xenon hexafluoride on reaction with the metal fluorides. Here, these metal fluorides may be any first group element, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, anything you can take, where M stands for sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium. These elements, they form M plus and XeF7 minus. Now look at this, your xenon at anionic position. You're able to observe this. So it is forming an anion. That means it is a F minus donor. Earlier it was XeF6. Now it is XeF7. That means one fluorine is transformed here. So it is F minus donor. With the fluoride ion donors, it forms anions. Is this clear to you? So this is how you have to observe. So with this xenon fluorides, so what we have done in this xenon fluorides preparation method, their structural studies and their few chemical properties we have discussed. Next we'll move to xenon oxygen combination. Xenon oxygen combination compounds. So here xenon oxygen compounds, xenon and oxygen both are present in this, because oxygen is also more electronegative atom. It also forms xenon oxides. So how xenon oxygen compounds are formed, first of all. So they are mainly formed by hydrolysis of xenon tetrafluoride and xenon hexafluorides. So how they are formed? Hydrolysis of xenon tetrafluoride and xenon hexafluorides, okay, with water, with H2O, gives xenon trioxide. Xenon trioxide. So let's take one preparation method of that. Xenon hexafluoride, or I'll start with tetrafluoride, on reaction with water molecule, okay, it will convert into xenon plus xenon oxide XeO3 plus HF plus oxygen gas releases. So 6, 12, 4, 2, 24, 3 moles of oxygen. So what you are actually looking for, xenon trioxide is your desirable compound. So that is here. Next, if xenon hexafluoride reacts with water, it will also give you xenon trioxide and HF. So let's balance this 3 moles. You can keep 6 here. Oxygens are balanced. Yes. Okay. So your desirable product is XeO3, xenon oxygen combination products. Here, something about xenon trioxide we'll discuss. This xenon trioxide is a colorless explosive. It is a colorless explosive solid. It is explosive and colorless. Okay. So sometimes the partial, this is a complete hydrolysis. See, maximum amount of water molecules we are using. So here, the other important point is partial hydrolysis. Okay, partial hydrolysis of xenon hexafluoride gives, they are complete hydrolysis, they are giving XeO3. But on partial hydrolysis of XeF6, they gives oxyfluorides in combination with xenons. So what are the oxyfluorides like XeOF4 and XeO2F2. So this type of compounds are also forming on partial hydrolysis. That means you have to use less amount of water here. So let's take that example, xenon hexafluoride on reaction with only small amount of water, only 1 mole. In that case, what it is giving, XeOF4 and 2 moles of HF is coming out. So this is what you are looking for, partial hydrolysis. Oxyfluorides are coming, oxyfluorides with xenon. Is it clear? Next, xenon hexafluoride on reaction with 2 moles of water, that gives you XeO2F2 plus 4 moles of HF. So xenon oxyfluoride, it is there. Okay, now we'll see their structures. So what are the products we have created so far? What are the structures we are going to discuss? Xenon oxygen combination, XeO3, next to XeOF4, and what is this? XeO2F2. So these 3 structures will analyze now. So let's start with the first one, xenon trioxide. So xenon, you know that it is a 8th group element, so keep 8 electrons in the valency shell. But each oxygen is a 6th group element. To get octet configuration, it need 2 electrons. So it takes 2 electrons from central atom xenon. So each oxygen takes 2 electrons. And this one is lone pair left. So in the 2 bonds, suppose between 2 oxygen atoms, if there are 2 bonds, one is sigma, other one is pi. That means here in these 2 bonds, only one is sigma. This is sigma, this is pi, this is sigma, this is pi, sigma and pi. So how many sigma bonds are formed in hybridization? Sigma bonds plus lone pair, right? How many sigma bonds? 1, 2, 3 and 1 lone pair, total 4. So what is the hybridization? sp3 you are getting. So you keep sp3 hybridization in a tetrahedral manner. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is sp3 tetrahedral. But each oxygen is taking 2 bonds, right? Suppose if I'll keep an oxygen here, it takes 2 bonds from central atom. And remaining is a lone pair. So keep the lone pair there. Now, due to this lone pair, it will not take a tetrahedral geometry, but now it is looks like pyramidal shape. What is the name of this? Pyramidal with sp3 hybridization. This is XeO3 structure. Okay, guys. Next, we'll move to another one. Please note down these things. Anyway, I'll send the notes. What is the next one we have? XeOF4. Second one is XeOF4. Are you listening? So xenon is the 8th group element. So keep 8 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oxygen needs how many electrons? 2 electrons. Okay. And fluorine needs only 1 electron to get octet. And 1 lone pair is left. Okay. So out of these 2 bonds, one is sigma, other one is pi, and remaining all are sigma bonds only. So what is hybridization now? Number of sigma bonds plus lone pair. Sigma bonds are how many? So one is sigma, and this is also sigma. 2, 3, 4, 5 sigma bonds are there, plus 1 lone pair. Total 6. 6 means what you are going to get? sp3d2 hybridization. Hybridization is sp3d2. But when you have lone pair, it will not take octahedral. But first you start with octahedral manner. One is above, one is below, and remaining 4 are in the plane. Is it clear? So here 4 fluorines, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 oxygen is there, right? So that oxygen I'll keep at the top. So but oxygen needs 2 bonds, so I'm keeping 2 bonds, and 1 lone pair I'll place this in the bottom side. Okay, so if you observe this, connect to this top oxygen atom with this other fluorine atoms. It looks like a square pyramid. Now, what is the geometry of this now? It is having sp3 2 hybridization, no doubt, but the geometry is square pyramidal. What is the geometry of that? Square pyramidal. Square pyramidal. Yes, this is a square and connecting with the topmost oxygen atom. So it looks like a pyramid, square pyramid. What is the third one we have to discuss? XeO2F2, isn't it? XeO2F2. Let's start this. Xenon is a 8th group element. Are you following? You have 8 electrons in the valency. Write all the 8 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there are 2 oxygens. So each oxygen takes 2 electrons. and 2 fluorines. And these 2 are left. So it is a 1 lone pair. And this is a sigma bond. Out of 2, only one is sigma, other one is pi bond. Okay, other one is a pi bond. So now write its a hybridization, number of sigma bonds plus lone pairs. 1, 2, 3, 4 sigma bonds with 1 lone pair, total 5. 5 means which type of hybridization you are going to get? With 5 hybrid orbitals, sp3d is a hybridization. Is it clear? Next. So sp3d means a trigonal bipyramidal. So keep trigonal bipyramidal geometry first. This is trigonal bipyramidal. Xenon at the center and 5 bonds. How many oxygens are there? 2 oxygens. So oxygen generally takes 2 bonds. So 1, 2. How many fluorines are there? 2 fluorines. And 1 lone pair I'll keep here. So that lone pair is here. And if you observe this, so atoms are present along this bond, along this vertical line, and like this. So it looks like a seesaw structure. Okay. So what is the structure of this seesaw structure? What is this? XeO2 F2. So with this, all the oxyfluoride structures also we have completed. So the only thing left in this 18th group elements is their uses. Halogen, this noble gas uses. So now we'll move to the uses of noble gas elements. One by one we'll discuss uses. So first I'll talk about helium gas uses. Helium gas uses. So helium is having a wide variety of uses, okay, in the medical field, in the nuclear reactors, in the metallurgical observations, okay, and even in diving operators, deep sea divers will also use this helium. So let's see one by one of helium uses. So first of all, it is non-flammable. It won't catch fire that much easily. It is non-flammable, first thing. And it is a light weighted gas. So it is a light gas. So due to this lightweight property, it is used in balloons. So helium balloons, they can easily go, you know, to the high altitudes. So that's what it is used for. Weather observation balloons are there. Somewhere it is installed by meteorology department. Okay. So it is, they are used for meteorological observations. That means weather forecasting observation, what is the humidity present in the particular area, and what type of gaseous present in atmosphere. That can be all done by this meteorology department, right? So for that observation purpose, helium gas is filled in balloons and their equipment is attached to that balloon. So that equipment will start reading all this. Okay. So next, it is used as a nuclear reactor coolant. It is also used as coolant of nuclear reactors. So it is a gas cooled used in nuclear reactors. Gas cooled in nuclear reactors also it is widely used. And due to its low point, this liquid helium liquid is used in cryogenic studies. Cryogenic studies means, so what is mean by cryo means here low temperature studies. Suppose if you want to do an experiment at minus 100 degrees centigrade. How to attain that minus 100 degrees centigrade in the laboratory, it is very tough. So to maintain that low temperatures, they will simply use liquid helium, because its boiling point is how much? 4.2 kelvins only. So very, very less. That means minus 270 nearly. So to attain a low temperature in the laboratory, they will use helium liquid to get low temperatures. That studies are called cryogenic studies. Okay. And this helium is also used for producing of powerful magnets. Powerful magnets. If you visit, big multi-specialty hospitals, they have NMR scanning, MRI scanning, like this type of scanning machines, equipments are there. So they are actually a very big magnets. So when you're entering into MRI scanning rooms, they won't allow, any metal objects to carry inside. If you have coins or key, okay, bike keys or something, or chain, gold chain rings, they won't allow into that MRI scanning room, because this helium is used to produce a very big and strong magnets. They can attract them. That's what they won't allow. So here, this helium is also used for producing powerful superconducting magnets. Powerful superconducting magnets. Superconducting magnets means low temperature magnets. At very low temperature, they act as magnet. That's what we call them as superconducting magnets. So what are they? Nothing but NMR, MRI, this type of scannings. Okay. So mainly they are used in where? Used in diagnosis purpose. Okay. They are used in clinical diagnosis. Okay. So MRI scan of head, total body. So that all given by this MRI. NMR, superconducting magnets. It is used for clinical diagnosis. Okay, guys. Next one. It is used as a. This is used as a diluent. Diluent for used as a diluent for oxygen. For oxygen. So mainly it is, that means oxygen is combined with helium in the oxygen cylinders. Okay. In deep sea divers, they will use oxygen and helium combination cylinders. Okay. Because if more oxygen is diluted in your body when you are coming upside from the bottom level of the sea, when you are coming upside, so that dissolved oxygen will, the dissolved oxygen will come back. Normally what happens when you are going into the high pressure regions, more oxygen, if you apply more pressure, more oxygen will dissolve in blood, right? So the dissolved oxygen will start releasing when you are coming upside. So that creates abnormal problems, because gaps will create in the veins. Okay. In this blood flowing vessels, so gap creates, so that you may get heart attack. That's what this, to avoid that problems, this helium is used as a diluent for oxygen. Okay. In this used as a diluent for oxygen in modern diving apparatus. And diving apparatus, because of its low solubility in blood. Low solubility in blood. So it is less soluble in blood. That's what it is combined with the oxygen. So this is about helium uses. There are a hell lot of uses of helium. So next, we'll talk about neon uses. Okay, neon, helium, neon. So it is mainly used in discharge tubes, and it is also used in fluorescent bulbs, for advertising purpose. On the roadside, you might have seen very big cutouts, advertising purpose. So in that type of small lights of fluorescent bulbs, this neon gas is used. So fluorescent bulbs for advertisement display purpose. So the display is made up of this neon gas. Okay, and neon bulbs are also used in botanical gardens. Neon bulbs used in botanical garden means, so plants are raised there, different plants. It is botany, okay, for botany students. So it is a botanical garden. Neon bulbs are used in botanical gardens, and it is also used in greenhouses. Greenhouses means not in green color. Greenhouses means zero emission of carbon dioxide, okay, all other pollutants. Where pollution emission is zero, that type of plants. That means not green plants again. Plants means any setup, industrial setup. In that type of houses, uh, called as greenhouses, where the emission of pollutants are zero. That's what we call them as green. Okay. So this is neon uses, helium and neon uses. Can you see this? Next, we'll talk about the last one, argon uses. Okay. So what is argon? It is a noble gas element. It is mainly used. It is used to provide. It is mainly used to provide inert atmosphere. Suppose you are doing some reaction, you want to create some inert atmosphere there. That means argon is less reactive. So even if you pump this organic, argon gas into your reaction, it won't affect much. In fact, it will remove other gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide if it is there in any apparatus. That's what argon is used as an inert atmosphere. So it won't affect your chemical reaction. Due to its less reactivity, it is used as inert atmosphere. It is used as inert atmosphere in high temperature, metallurgical processes. Metallurgy is different from meteorological. Metallurgical process means extraction of metals. Okay, so mainly it is used in welding purpose. In welding purpose to create atmospheric, okay, inert atmosphere, they will use argon. And it is also used as a, it is filled in electrical bulbs. Also argon is filled in electrical bulbs. So some type of electrical bulbs are also, okay, manufactured with the help of argon gas. So they become, their longevity increases, their lifespan increases. Okay. So this argon is also used for handling air sensitive substances. Air sensitive substance. That means if air sensitive means if air enters, that substance will damage. If air enters into some sort of substances, they get damaged. That's what. In that case, you have to remove the air. So they will pump argon gas into this substance material. It was very simple. Suppose if you want to create inert atmosphere in this room, say this is a room, but this room is already having oxygen gas, okay, water, moisture, nitrogen gas is there, carbon dioxide, all other possible gases are there. You want to clear them. You want to clear all these gases from this room to create inert atmosphere. In that case, what we'll do is we will pump argon gas into it. So when you just close this one side and pump complete organic gas inside, so after some time, what happens? Your all gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, atmospheric moisture, everything will come out and your room is completely filled with organic gas, argon. So it becomes an inert atmosphere. In that room, you can do anything because there is no air to get oxidation. If oxygen is present, it is an oxidizing agent, so it will affect your product. So you can create an inert atmosphere room by pumping argon gas. So there is no other gases to affect or to spoil your reactions. Okay, that's what this argon is used as a inert atmosphere. So wonderful usage. In the industry, most of the scientists will use this. Okay. So with this, your eighth group element is also completed. So with this, I mean, all the groups are completed. Tomorrow onwards, we'll switch to a new topic. Okay. So what we have completed in this session, uses of helium. So we'll go like this from page 1, group 18, their occurrence, their normal occurrence. And in the second page, you have the electronic configuration, ionization enthalpies, atomic radii, electron affinity. They have high positive affinities and their physical properties. They are all monoatomic gases, isn't it? They are all monoatomic gases. They are tasteless, odorless, colorless, soluble in water. Even with this, even traces amount of water also they can soluble. They can react. They have low melting and boiling point. What is the main reason? Because they have very weak dispersion forces between the atomic gases. So, and helium is having unusual property. It diffuses through rubber, glass, and plastics. Next one, chemical properties. In the chemical property, okay, they are least reactive. What is the main reason for the least reactivity? Due to complete configuration, complete electron filled in the valency shell, and they have ionization and high positive electron gain enthalpy values. But the first time this guy, Neil Bartlett, prepared this oxygen related compound, and then he thought that oxygen and xenon both have same ionization energy. So why can't I put xenon in the place of oxygen? Then he started preparing. So in the place of oxygen, he inserted xenon. Then xenon chemistry has evolved. So immediately in the subsequent years, so scientists started working on xenon and other compounds. So they found that xenon reacts with only more electronegative atoms like fluorine and oxygen. So and the related compounds are here. And krypton have this next. And xenon fluorine compounds. So they have successfully extracted difluorides, tetrafluorides, and hexafluorides. Their ratio and the balanced equation is very important in this. Okay. Next, they hydrolyze with even small traces of water. This is an explanation. And their structures. XeF2 is having linear with sp3d hybridization. XeF4 with sp3d2 hybridization, square planar geometry. And your XeF6, here it is. XeF6 is having sp3d3 hybridization with a distorted octahedral geometry, and they form cations and anions with acceptor and donors of fluoride ions. Next, xenon oxygen related compound. Normally, these xenon oxides are prepared by hydrolyzing their fluorides only. Okay, if you give 100% of water, that means complete hydrolysis will give oxides, and partial hydrolysis will gives you oxygen and fluoride combination. So we have three such examples: xenon oxide, xenon, tetraoxide, here fluorine, tetrafluorooxide, and here dioxide, difluoride. So there, first one, XeO3, if you see, it is having a sp3 hybridization with a pyramidal shape, isn't it? Sp3 hybridization with a pyramidal shape. This is an important point. And the structure you can see there. And XeOF4, next. What is XeOF4? It is sp3d2 hybridization with a square planar geometry, square pyramidal geometry. And XeO2F2 is sp3d2 hybridization with seesaw structure. Okay. So next one is the helium neon gases. These noble gases uses helium is having wonderful applications. It is because of a light gas. It is used in the meteorological observation balloons. It is also used in nuclear reactors, so for cooling purpose. And helium is used in cryogenic studies. Cryogenic studies means low temperature studies, and it is used for superconducting to create to produce powerful superconducting magnets. They are used in NMR and MRI. So mainly they were also used in clinical diagnosis. You might heard about this MRI. Next, it is also used as a diluent for oxygen. It is used by modern diving operators. Okay. So deep dive swimmers are there now, deep divers. So they will use this oxygen helium filled cylinders. So why they are using helium as a diluent means because it is having low solubility in the blood. That's what they are using it. Next, neon. It is used in discharge tubes, fluorescent bulbs, and advertising displays. And it is used in botanical garden bulbs and greenhouses also it is used. Next, organ. It is a very good inert atmosphere. So at high temperature metallurgical studies, it is used as a inert atmosphere. So mainly in the welding process. It is also filled in electrical bulbs, and to handle air sensitive substances, argon is used. Okay. So this is your eighth group. Okay, guys. So we have done a quick revision. So thank you all of you. So all the groups are over. Tomorrow, probably I'll switch to D and F block elements. Hello, guys. Thank you all of you. I'm signing off.
Bye, sir.
Bye. Sidhu, please sign off.